So now for the third part of sketching Undertaker, we're going to focus on left shoulder of Undertaker and remaining half parts of the clothes that Undertaker is wearing. So before we start this tutorial, my only request for you all that I want to share art to every single person in this world, because there is nothing like art. So share this video to everyone and share this, continue every tutorial that I upload. You can share it if you like it. Just like, share and comment how much you will rate this tutorial of mine. So before we are going to focus on main things, there are smaller little things that we have talked about in part 1 and 2, is sharpening your pencil, how to make grids, how to apply grids to your photos and different type of things. So these are the main things that every artist, every beginner or intermediate new artist who just have made 10 or 15 sketches just question about that, how to apply grid to your sketches, how to make smaller pieces of papers, which paper you should use, which tool you should use. So every drawing tutorial I have uploaded in my this particular tutorial of Shwet sketches channel, so you can check out, and you can also check out the playlist of how to, and you should know that how to make grids on paper and different type of easiest things. So you should learn everything. And if you want to buy every tools that I use, personally I just use cheap pencils and everything that I just found in my stationeries nearby. So you can buy those things. You don't have to purchase the branded pencils and everything. Those are just for advanced artists. They just want smaller details, so they use advanced pencils, rubbers and different type of things. But the main thing about sketching portraits is the main and the most important thing about any portraits or any art is that how skilled you are. So you should focus on skill or improving your skills, not on which type of tools that you are using. But the tools that I am using, everyone or anyone can purchase also. So I have given the link in my description. You can buy those tools that I use, and you can buy them easily on Amazon or anything, but the links are in my description box. So starting with this tutorial, for the left shoulder of Undertaker, as we have discussed in part 2, where the light source is coming. So of course there are artificial lights, and this is the photo shoot of WWE 2K22. That is a game, and it is photo shoot of Undertaker, and the clothes that Undertaker is wearing is too good, and it's personally I like it, and it is suiting the Undertaker, as the Undertaker is just a dark character in WWE. So the cloth is just, personally I literally liked it, right? So again, for making the darker parts, I discussed in part 1 that using graphite pencil you can have darker parts, but you should use a charcoal pencil to have a complete black thing. And what I mean about complete black thing is that while using a charcoal pencil you have a complete black part. You should use a 10B or 12B for darkening things, but there is a darker part with graphite pencil also, but the texture and the color that charcoal pencils are giving or give while sharpening them and applying them is just different from graphite pencils. So as I always say that for making clothes and different type of ornaments or something that a person is wearing, you should use a charcoal pencil, because it will give you a complete and beautiful texture for making your sketches. Now for making the left shoulder of Undertaker, light source is on above of head of Undertaker, then right side part and back side part also. So of course somewhere a light source is coming, so of course the shadow will be on behind of this part, that part, right? So shadows are so much on the left hand side shoulder of Undertaker. So to make those parts more darker, I literally discussed in part 2 also. If you haven't seen part 1, just check out, then come for this particular part 3 of Undertaker, that I have discussed that to make the part look more darker, the fade away thing, or what I mean about saying fade away is that there are so many smaller details also. If we can focus on the left hand side shoulder of Undertaker, there are so many smaller things are also smaller ornaments that are on the clothes that Undertaker is wearing. It is not completely black. There are some parts which are having highlights, some parts are having more darker values, and some parts are having monochrome, or what I mean about monochrome is that not completely dark, not completely white. So to make a middle color is more tougher as compared to making light and dark. To make darker thing, you can just directly use a soft charcoal pencil, which is the direct one, and to make it look a little bit lighter, you should use a hard charcoal pencil. But to make it more more darker and lower. In medium of those parts, it's more tougher. So to make it look more monochrome or medium color, not completely black, not completely white, you should just make a base layer, then blend it with a makeup brush or blending stump. You can also use blending stump. Blending stump will give you a monochrome or the middle color which you want, which is the gray color, not completely black, not completely white. So to make a gray color, just apply a base layer with H pencil. Just sharpen your pencil. As I always say that sharpen your pencil after every 10 to 14 or 15 strokes. Just sharpen it so you can use it or more effectively on your papers. And to sharpen your pencils, it is not easy to sharpen charcoal pencil, I know that. So I have uploaded a complete tutorial to how to sharpen charcoal pencil or graphite pencil in an artistic way, so you can check out that also. So after discussing this thing, after sharpening your pencil, just hold your pencil a little bit tilted while shading. Don't just directly apply. Like if you write with a pen, if you will apply the same thing to your pencils while making shading, your shading will look too dull. Your shading will not be easy, or it will make marks on the pages. It is not a shading, it is just using your pencil as a pen. Pen is used to write alphabets and this type of things. Pens are not used for shading things, as everyone know that, right? So to make pencils into a shading thing, to shade with pencils, you should just bend your pencil a little bit tilted and just don't apply so much of pressure while making base layer. Because main thing is that if you will apply a little bit more pressure for making a base layers, your base layer will look a little bit darker, and while you will blend, and if you want to make a highlighted thing or a little bit grayish thing, it will not be easily blended, or it will completely look darker. If you can focus on Undertaker's center part, which is the cloth where so much of buttons are going on, and this type of, there is little bit grayish and whitish also. So to make a transition between dark and white, it is a little bit more tougher. So it should not look easy way like outline. If you can focus on outline, that left hand side, I just want to give you an example that if you are on outside on a sunlight, if your sunlight is coming directly on your face and the shadow is back hand side, right, on your back hand side, so of course the lighter part will be on your front side and darker part will be on the back side. But there are some parts like ear, backside part of ears, backside part of your main body, those are a little bit grayish, and the shadow is on, darker shadow is on the earth's surface, right? So this type of different things you should focus on, that where the light source is, where the grayish part, where the transition is going on. You cannot literally say that this is gray and this is white, because there are no transition visible. There is no outline visible, so that you can distinguish between the darker and whiter parts. So while shading, you should focus that your transition will look completely smooth. While making a realistic and hyper realistic sketches, there is a different thing. To make a hyper realistic thing, you should focus on smaller to smaller details. There is a complete different thing. But to make a transition from darker to lower parts, if you don't see details like smaller to smaller details, I prefer that don't apply details. Because if you will apply from your own, if you don't see details, and if you will apply your own, your sketch will look completely dull. I was just scrolling Instagram right now, and I saw so many details from so many artists that their shading technique is too good. They use charcoal pencils in too effective way, but the problem is that they just apply so many details to them. Those are not details, even not visible details, but they apply details like smaller pores on their faces. They make details that are not there. And what I mean about saying is that if you will zoom out your picture, the reference picture that you are having, if it is a 4K or HD picture, you will see so many details. But personally, so many people just make portraits, or so many reference picture on the internet are just flat face. There are not so many details. So if you will download those non-detailed faces, and if you will apply those detail on the faces, your sketch will look too dull. Those people are just inspired from the artist or advanced, and most of the advanced artists on the internet or YouTube, they just apply details on their own. But the beginner artists don't understand the same thing, that they just have made 400-500 sketches, then they know that where the skin texture is going on, where the smaller texture direction is going on, where the hair is going on. If the reference picture is not having details, they will apply the details, but the reason is that they just have made 400-500 sketches and they know every structure and everything of where the face structure going on and everything. So as a beginner artist, you shouldn't go for every details you should apply, but if you see details, just apply them. But if you don't see, just don't apply them. This is the biggest and easiest rule. And before starting everything, you should know how to shade, how to make grades, how to apply different type of techniques, how to sharpen your pencil and different type of things. So basic skills you should improve before starting your portraits or any type of arts. Basics is the most important. If the building's foundation is not good, then of course the building is going to just crash away, right? So these are the most important things you should focus while making sketches. Now after this type of things, we are going to focus the hands of Undertaker. Those are the most beautiful thing that I just saw on this picture. So there are so many more, what I mean about saying there's so many more details on the hand sides, right? So we are going to discuss how to make hairs on the part 4 of Undertaker. It's going to be the craziest part, I just want to say that. So we are going to see the part 4 in just tomorrow of this video. So bye bye.
So that was all for this tutorial. If you have learned something from this video, subscribe and drop a like. And comment down your question and queries regarding this tutorial. Meanwhile, take care of your loved ones too. Have an artistic day. Tattoos.